Good afternoon. I'm Vishnu Lok Bihari Srivastava, Associate Professor, Department of English, Rohtas Mahila College, Sasaram. Today I'm going to deliver a lecture on Eliot's theory of impersonality. It has been divided into two parts. In the first part, which will be delivered today, I shall concentrate on Eliot's contribution to modern criticism, and in the second part, which will be delivered today, I shall take note of Eliot's theory of impersonality. T.S. Eliot is by far the most influential critic of our time. He was not a theorist, nor was he a system builder. He didn't claim to have pioneered any school of criticism, although the critics associated with modern American new criticism, John Crow Clint Brooks, Alan Tate, R.P. Blackmer, and Robert Penn-Warren have owed their allegiance to Eliot for his repeated assertions that critics must not venture outside the proper confine of criticism. By proper confine of criticism, Eliot means that the critic must not transgress the territory of criticism and crave for various sociological, psychological, anthropological and autobiographical facts which are unlikely to serve any purpose for the evaluation of work of art. He was of the opinion that the purpose of criticism is defeated if it will be loaded with unnecessary facts. In his essay Function of Criticism, published in the year 1923, Eliot has discussed that the function of criticism is correction of taste and elucidation of work of art. By elucidation of work of art, Eliot means the evaluation or assessment of work of art. Eliot has been equally critical of existing schools of criticism like autobiographical school of criticism pioneered by Dr. Johnson, impressionistic school of criticism propounded by Milton Murray, and archetypal school of criticism initiated by Watkin for their failure to remain inside the territory of criticism and venturing into those regions which fall outside the territory of criticism. Actually, Eliot was not satisfied with the existing critical scenario. In his essay Function of Criticism, he has compared modern criticism with a Sunday park full of contending and contentious orators. He is of the opinion that modern criticism has lost its way. The very purpose of criticism has lost sight of. Instead of supplying healthy criticism, modern critics are indulged in mud splashing, source hunting, and finding faults in others. They are idolatrous, unyielding, and uncompromising, and are not ready to accept their mistakes if at all it is rectified by someone with logical arguments. Their critical theorizings touches upon the periphery of polemics. Instead of adding anything substantial, they are indulged in arguments and counter arguments, and have even came to the extent of using abusive language in criticism, which has caused an irreparable damage to modern criticism. The demarcation line between irrational theorizing and literary criticism has been blurred. It has got muddled with each other, causing a complete mess. Even the most celebrated critic like F.R. Lewis cannot be spared of this perennial sin. He had a heated discussion with the philosopher critic René Belloc on the issue whether philosophy has a bearing on criticism or not. René Belloc was of the opinion that philosophy has got a wide-ranging spectrum, and therefore the critics must understand various nuances of criticism in order to widen the boundary of their perception, to which F.R. Lewis reacted sharply, saying that any other sources or factors other than criticism must not intrude into the territory of criticism. He talked about purity of criticism and insisted that the sanctity of criticism must be preserved at all costs. Eliot was of the opinion that critical ideas should not be outright rejected within the territory of criticism, but he feared that it might affect or drag the readers from the right path, and any such digression might be disastrous. Actually, the apple of discard or bone of contention between T.S. Eliot and René Vallée was their failure to understand philosophy in the right perspective. Whereas René Vallée took philosophy in a wider context, F.R. Lewis took philosophy in a narrow sense. By philosophy, René Vallée meant reason thinking, rational thinking, and logical thinking, whereas F.R. Lewis took philosophy as mere abstraction or drab thinking. Actually, Eliot was the most condescending of all critics. By condescending means he was ready to accept the mistake if at all it is recognized by some critics with plausible arguments. He had, in his first essay on Milton, he has made a disparaging remark on Milton, holding him responsible for corrupting English language, initiating bad taste, and causing an adverse impact on the poets from 17th century onwards. An eminent critic, E.M.W. Eliot, reacted sharply to the arguments advanced by T.S. Eliot, insisting that dissociation of sensibility had already set in English literature, and therefore the poor fellow should not be held responsible for it or for the deterioration. He has made it clear through the example, saying that the deterioration or blank verse was repeatedly used in the dramas like Venice Preserved and All by Love, which are in no way inspired by Milton, and therefore the question of Milton corrupting English language doesn't crop up. In the same way, Keats has used the Latinized diction practiced by Milton in his poetry Hyperion, but he failed miserably, saying that life to him will be death to me. English must be kept in. Here too, it is clearly evident that Milton should not be held responsible for Keats' failure to use the Latinized diction in a right perspective. Eliot has used several catchwords which are invaluable treasures to the repertory of English criticism. These catchwords include dissociation of sensibility, objective correlative, and emotional equivalent of thought. He has coined out the phrase dissociation of sensibility in his essay Metaphysical Poets, published in the year 1921. He insisted that in 17th century a dissociation in sensibility has set in, for which two great poets, Milton and Dryden, should be held responsible. By dissociation of sensibility, Eliot made a wide-ranging gap between the thinking and emotional part of the poet's consciousness. Actually, Eliot talks about association of sensibility. By association of sensibility, Eliot means a synthesis between mind and heart, emotion and intellect, form and content, and music and meter, which he did notice in the poetry of the Romantic poets, for which he took them heavy-handedly. But quite surprisingly, he noticed a peculiar blend of rationality and sensuousness in the amorous and religious poetry of 17th century metaphysical poets led by John Donne. Eliot has put forward his theory of objective correlative in his essay Hamlet, published in the year 1919. He was of the opinion that despite excellent dramatic craftsmanship, Shakespeare's tragedy Hamlet is an artistic failure because objective correlative is badly wanting here. By objective correlative, Eliot means compatibility between emotion and object, or stimulus or excitant. Emotion cannot be expressed in a void. It requires an intense stimulus to excite the emotion. Actually, the incident of the act of murder was not executed before the naked eyes of the act of murder of King Hamlet was not executed before the naked eyes of Prince Hamlet. It was brought to the notice of Prince Hamlet by the ghost of his father. Therefore, the question of Milton getting infuriated over the act of killing doesn't carry any meaning. Actually, the modern psychologists of introspective school have also expressed solidarity with Milton, saying that stimulus is directly proportional to emotion. If stimulus is weak or feeble, emotion will also be weak. If stimulus is a strong, emotion too will be strong. There is a striking similarity between Eliot's theory of impersonality and Indian theory of vibhav. While elaborating his theory of ras nispatti, Bharat Muni in his seminal work Natya Shastra has insisted that rasa is manifested by the crystallization of or harmonization of bhav, vibhav, anubhav and sanchari bhav. He says that bhava, anubhav, anubhav, sanchari bhav, sanyogat ras nispatti. An eminent Indologist, Dr. S.N. Das Gupta, in his book History of Sanskrit Literature, has made two categories of vibhav. Alamban vibhav and Uddipan vibhav. It can be understood through an example. Suppose hero and heroine are roaming in a garden. The hero gets enamored over the beauty of the heroine and falls in love with her. So the sense of love in the heart of the hero is aroused by the beauty of the heroine. In this way, the heroine is alamban vibhav or objective correlative, whereas the moon peeping through the cloud is considered as uddipan vibhav. Actually, Eliot had studied Sanskrit literature while studying at Harvard in association with eminent Indologists George Santana and Irving Babbitt. Even his own celebrated work, Westland, concludes with the hymns of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Dat Dayadvam Damayat, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Actually, after the conclusion of the Devasur Sangram, the gods, the humans, and the demons went to Prajapati to seek his blessings, who in return uttered the word Datta, which was variously interpreted by them as Datta Dayadvam Damayat, meaning that to offer, to show mercy on others, and to perform celibacy. Actually, Eliot has discussed the purpose of criticism in his essay Frontiers of Criticism, published in the year 1956. He has launched a tirade of vilification against two existing schools of criticism: verbal analysis, a school of criticism pioneered by William Emerson, and the criticism of analysis initiated by Livingston Low. He has rectified numerous shortcomings in verbal analysis of criticism, saying that they examined every word and sentence in order to squeeze out the meaning of the poetry to the last drop. And he has very sarcastically made a comment that they are lemon squeezer school of criticism. He has further added that in order to count the trees, they forgot the groves. He also criticized criticism of exploration, or even Livingston Low for intermingling scholarship into criticism. In his book Road to Janadu, Livingston Low has jotted down several materials which help in the formation of Coleridge's poetry, Ancient Mariner. But actually, facts finding falls outside the territory of criticism. it finds out that the territory of criticism, and it hampers the very purpose of the reader of understanding and enjoyment of criticism, because Eliot is of the opinion that the purpose of criticism is to promote understanding and enjoyment of criticism. So the very laundry bill of Shakespeare will not help or will not assist in any way to understand his dramas. Therefore, Eliot shifted his attention to his private poetry workshop. He was of the opinion that his criticism is byproduct of his private poetry workshop. Byproduct means a substance or material which is produced in the process of the preparation of something else. For example, molasses is produced in the process of the preparation of sugar. Actually, Eliot was of the opinion that criticism and creation are complementary to each other. They are not separate. The whole part of creative process requires creative labor. He is of the opinion that the critics worth reading are those who practice the art which they write. So, but still, his theory of workshop criticism doesn't have a very firm foundation. There are certain obvious limitations to it. The critic fails to make a judgment of the literature which is antipathetic to it or with which he is not concerned. Even Aristotle has passed his comment on poetry, on the theory of poetry and drama, without having been supplied any poetry and drama. So I think we have had plenty of discussion on Eliot's contribution to modern criticism. That's okay. Thank you. Please subscribe my video and tap the bell icon for my next videos in Literary Desk. Thank you.